right, let's talk about simplifying fractions. What does it mean to simplify a fraction? Well, when you simplify a fraction, or another way to put that is putting in lowest terms, you are grouping your pieces into bigger pieces. So the first step in simplifying a fraction is to think of the greatest common factor for the numerator and the denominator. Think of the largest number that divides into both the numerator and the denominator. Step 2 is to divide both the numerator and the denominator by the GCF. Okay, so let's do an example. Let's say we have 6/8, and you can see our model here. Well, what is the largest number that 6 and 8 can be divided by? Well, 2. They're both divisible by 2, and that is the largest number that can divide both into 6 and 8. Okay, so we're going to divide both the top and the bottom by 2. And you can see if we divide the 6 by 2 and the 8 by 2, we get 3/4. Well, what does that mean when you're modeling? It means that we are dividing the shaded part into groups of 2 and the entire whole into groups of 2. And once we do that, you can see that we have 1, 2, 3 out of 4 groups. So if I gave you 6/8 of my candy bar, that's the same thing as me giving you 3/4 of my candy bar. Let's do another example. Here we have a model for 8/24. Okay. Now, what's the number that goes into 8 and 24? Well, 2 can go into both 8 and 24. 4 can, and you can see, now if I did it in groups of 4, right, I would have 2 out of 6. But that's still not the largest number I can group my 8 pieces and my 24 pieces into. What's the largest number that can go into 8 and 24? Well, if you're thinking 8, that is correct. I can actually group them into groups of 8. So although I can make the bigger chunks with groups of 4, it is not the largest chunks I can make. Right? I can actually group it into groups of 8. See, there's 1, and then here's another 8. There's 2, and then there's 3. So 8/24 is the same thing as 1/3. You can see there's 8, 8, and 8. And 1 out of 3 is the same thing as 8 out of 24. So we have simplified 8/24. We've chunked it into larger pieces. Now let's try and simplify without the models. Okay, we have 12/15. What can we group the 12 and the 15 into groups of? What are they both divisible by? Well, they are both divisible by 3, so we can divide 12 into groups of 3, and we can divide all 15 pieces into groups of 3. And if we do that, we would have 4/5. So if I had a candy bar and I broke into 15 pieces and I gave you 12, that's the same thing as if I broke the candy bar into 5 pieces and gave you 4. They are the same. What about 20/30? What's a number that can divide into both 20 and 30? Well, they're both divisible by 10, right? 20 divided by 10 would be 2 groups. 30 divided by 10 would be 3. So if I gave you 2 out of 3 groups, that's the same thing as giving you 20 out of 30 pieces. Okay? So that's what it means to simplify a fraction. You are just chunking your pieces into larger pieces. You're getting an equivalent fraction. The simplified fraction is the same thing as your original fraction.